Has your gut ever told you it's time to make a change? Did you listen to that? Today's guest listened to her gut and believes that the move she made possibly saved her life. Amy Rannebarger walked away from a long corporate career, thinking that it was time to make a professional decision. But what came next revealed something much deeper. She was actually in the midst of burnout, identity loss, and a health scare. Ultimately, desperately in need of a new beginning rooted in clarity, courage, and truth. Welcome to her next chapter. This is the show that helps women prepare for, walk through, and thrive during life's transitions. Today, we're going to talk about Amy Rannebarger's story. Amy is an executive leader, business owner, speaker, author, and community builder with more than 2 decades of experience helping organizations navigate growth or operational complexity, leadership effectiveness, and transformation. Wow, you're busy. She now leads Sublimitas Consulting. That's Sublimitas Consulting, right. Serves on multiple nonprofit and professional boards, and is passionate about helping people and organizations move forward when they feel stuck. Today, she's going to share her own story of leaving the corporate world, rebuilding her identity, and discovering what really matters when you're on the other side. Thank you so much for joining us, Amy.
Thank you. I'm so appreciative of the invite.
Good. I'm glad you're here. Let's start with your decision to actually leave corporate life. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about actually what you felt in your gut and how you knew it was time to make a change.
There wasn't just one specific thing.
Sure.
I think my body and my mental health were all whispering to me over a period of time. I was just normalizing behaviors rather than listening.
I love that.
To what I should have been listening to.
So how did you recognize that you had normalized behaviors that were not healthy for you?
Yeah. Disconnection. That was really the biggest.
From like friends and groups,
you name
and
it.
Family?
Anything and everything that made me me. I was disconnected from it. I was constantly editing and muting myself and normalizing that behavior. And over time, when you do that, you tend to forget what you edited.
Yeah.
Right? You forget that you muted. And it just became this thing I continued to normalize over time.
I feel like you're kind of describing like a withering flower or a shrinking violet, if you will. So did somebody point it out to you, or did you?
Yes, many times.
Okay.
In fact, I find this to be the case a lot with a lot of folks that I work with and talk to now, especially gone in the direction I have from a consulting perspective. And I work with a lot of leaders, especially women in leadership. And what I find to be the case is that we edit and we mute, and we're told a lot of things like, you're too much. We all have a too much list, right?
Yeah.
Too passionate, too direct. I've even been told I'm too honest.
Oh, wow.
Too optimistic. We all have a too much list.
Right.
And over time, that becomes more than just a list that you're given. It becomes labels.
Right.
That either you're given by someone else or you give to yourself.
Well, and when you're told those things by either somebody that has authority over you, like in a job, or a family member, or a spouse, or your child, you know, first of all, you think, well, who has the right to vocalize that opinion? And it is just that, an opinion. But the damage that it does, and like you said, that you found it was changing you.
It really
because you were taking those words to heart because they were coming from, you know, either somebody you respected or that you were, you know, employed by, or a family member. And you're right, it does change your identity.
A lot of it, too, was adaptation, really. That's the better word.
Okay.
So adaptation is a wonderful skill.
Yeah.
We as human beings, we need it to grow and to survive. But adaptation to grow is very, very different from adaptation to belong.
Interesting.
Very,
I
very
love that.
different turn of in perspective.
Right.
Because if you're always adapting to belong, then you're adapting to the room and to the space.
Right.
And I found over time I had adapted so much that I wasn't just burnt out from doing too much. I was burned out from being too little of myself for too long.
How did that affect your family life?
It
and
affected
your
everything.
personal life?
Affected everything across the board. There was no work-life balance, which I consider BS anyway.
Okay.
But it's more you're looking for harmony in your life, not
Right.
work-life balance. But I had none of that. I was showing up for everyone and everything else but myself.
Yeah.
And it just continued to build and build over time.
Sure.
And when I really started to recognize that was when, the disconnections to myself, to spending time on myself, or to, doing the things that I really enjoyed. So joy no longer was that thing that I had. I had to earn it. And that's how I was feeling, was that I was needing to earn my joy.
Wow.
And those disconnections over time they were whispering to me over and over, and I wasn't listening. I was paying more attention to adapting.
Right.
To belonging.
And it's amazing what happens when we take a step back and we're quiet and we listen to those whispers and we listen to our gut.
Yes.
So you do that and you decide that you're successful on paper, but on the inside you're not feeling successful as a person, and you're lacking the joy that you once had and the joy you brought other people, of course. And so once you get that courage to make that change, did you find some type of support? How did you decide, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to make this drastic career change, not even quite knowing what that was going to look like. And you're going into this world of uncertainty, so super scary.
Which is,
you lose your financial stability, you lose your emotional stability, you lose your identity.
Yeah.
Tell us what that felt like and how you found support. What did you use to help you support during that transition?
Interestingly, I found my way by being supportive to others.
Wow.
I found my way by filling the cups of others that needed it.
Sure.
Because I think over time mine hadn't been.
Yeah.
And so that was my way of
you were giving what you needed.
So I started to
that.
join nonprofits. I volunteered. I am now on a couple of boards. I really started to focus instead on what was expected and more on what do I want?
Right.
What do I really want to do? Where do I really want to spend my time? Where do I want to find the peace that I seek?
Right.
It's not going to be in a paper title. And that's
true.
really where things started to shift for me.
And how did it feel kind of losing that identity title, that label?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of listeners, we've all gone through transition changes in our corporate world or when we go from being a stay-at-home mom to working and become a caretaker. That constantly is changing. Our identity constantly changes. And because we do have to have some adaptability to life, but how do we preserve ourselves and who we are when we kind of are losing those labels and those identities?
For me, I can share, at least from my perspective, it came down to recognizing that my value wasn't in being needed. Because I think that's what I was equating my title to.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people who need to be needed.
Right. But once I broke that barrier for myself, really a belief that I was limiting myself and was kind of hidden. It really, a lot of it, Karen, it really came down to boundaries. I didn't have them. I thought I did. Right?
Right.
They were like suggestions. And that's how other people treated them too, because that's how I treated them.
Right.
And those are some realizations I really had to, big girl,
Sure.
grown up, approach to recognizing that where I'm at, where I'm sitting, partially was by choice. I'm here because of that, which also means I can make the choice
to change
do
it.
something else.
Oh, I love that.
Right.
Having the power to change is everything. And I think oftentimes we do, you just kind of morph into a position.
Sometimes,
the expectations start to reveal themselves. We start to adapt. We start to become that yes person, whether it's in a relationship or, I actually have a hard time saying no and have a hard time, I like to be able to do it all. And I think as I've aged, I have done a much better job empowering myself to say no. And I was actually asked to be in a leadership position of an organization. And I said, I love it. I love the role I play. I love everything about it, but it's not the right time for me because I know I would not be able to give it my all. And it was very empowering to say no, which we've all learned is a sentence in itself.
It is a complete sentence.
It is. But it's hard to do that. And especially, you've got children that you've raised and you say, yes, 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 and I'll help you. I mean, I didn't have any boundaries with my kids. If they needed me, I did it. I went there. And my daughter and I just had this great conversation yesterday talking about it's okay to say, no, I don't want to attend this event. No, I don't want to go to this family whatever. And that's okay.
I think the hardest part for some folks is that they feel like no is saying, I don't want to. And for a lot of folks, that feels wrong, right?
They're offended.
Yes.
Right. It's offensive.
And I found a lot of, when it came down to really the boundaries that I wasn't surrounding myself with that I should have, it was because I was so focused on other people's comfort.
Right.
And that...
Because it feels selfish to focus on your own comfort. It feels very, self-preservation, but we have to do that. If we don't focus on we hear it all the time, but it's very hard to put
when you're in that space.
Place.
Yeah, when you're in that space and you carry so much of your life. We all do. We're all adults, right? We all have things that we carry. But there's a lot of times when you have to ask the question, just because you can carry it doesn't mean that I should.
Right.
You really have to take that step back and say, ask that question of yourself. Should I be carrying this?
And I love that line. Just because we can do it doesn't mean we should, because we do like to all be super women, of course, and do everything because we can. But should we?
Yes, and there's actually I call it a polite illusion. So polite illusions are those things that we focus on to be socially accepted. Right. And they're an illusion simply because you can't see through it until clarity usually is the way to do that. But it's confusing. Some of those polite illusions are confusing because most of them you see as being, I'm a good leader, I'm a good parent, I'm a good person, I'm a good human being. Those illusions are what keep you in that role and keep you with that label and those titles, right? But when you have certain types of illusions that go far beyond what is typical. I'll give you an example, perfection, as an example. And I don't mean perfectionism, right? That's a behavior. I mean perfection is in the belief that somewhere, some way, your piece is going to be found at some finish line that's up there, right? Problem is finish lines move.
Right.
They have commitment issues, right? They move constantly, and so do you. So you never actually reach what it is you're looking for. And I feel, for myself, I developed a competitor in my life. That competitor was what I called Matrix Amy, right? The Matrix version of Amy in adulthood.
Yeah.
It was, I woke up at 5 a.m. on purpose. Every morning I drank green juice and my inbox was always empty and I could fold a fitted sheet by myself and properly.
It's a major life accomplishment.
Exactly. I kept my houseplants alive, all of those things. But, meanwhile, real life Amy was trying to remember the password I changed yesterday, and standing in a room with my phone trying to remember why the heck I was in there, right? One of those versions is real. The other one is a marketing campaign.
Sure.
But I created a competitor I competed against that I gave all the advantages to, and still wondered why I was always behind.
Right. You set yourself up for failure.
Right.
You know,
but misfit isn't failure.
Right.
And I think that's a lot of what I was experiencing was misfit. Right? You're not in the right place.
Right.
You're not in the right room.
So you don't even have the opportunity to achieve just one of those goals. I love, just that concept that we all are familiar with from James Clear about just one step at a time.
Yes.
It's not about accomplishing everything you can possibly do. Again, being that person who can do it all, and having the house plants working right and up at 5 a.m. and, an hour of exercise in already. But maybe if it's just a 5-minute walk, or it's just one little thing. And if you're in the space where you're supposed to be and you are fit and not a misfit, to use your reference, it's much easier to do that and to find joy in that success.
Yes.
You probably had so many successes that were overlooked because you were not in the right space. And
Absolutely.
you didn't have that that good fit and that cohesion that you need between where am I supposed to be and where am I. So once you decide to make that move, you find your support network, you have tremendous insight, which is why I love talking to you and wanted to have you on the show, because I think that to have taken the time to really be honest with yourself and reflect is what gives you that courage to make that move. And I think a lot of our listeners who might find themselves in a position that you were in don't take the time to stop and listen to the whispers and listen to their gut and do that internal conversation with themselves to say, you know what, I'm just not in the right space anymore. This is not working.
No.
These things have changed and are different, and it's time for me to change.
I agree. And I think some of that is also, it's conditioning to the expectations that you're living in. Right? Over time, as children, we are born with joy. We inhabit it, right? It's something that it isn't something we have to earn.
Yeah.
Right? But over time, somewhere between childhood and adulthood, we learn the art of editing.
Yeah.
And when you start to do that, it becomes, over time, impossible to recognize where you were to where you are and what's actually true and what's real. And that is, I think, when people start to disconnect from themselves. Yeah. And I say this a lot to folks I work with, especially in that burnout world. I call it being spiritually crispy.
Oh, I love that. You use that phrase. I love it. Spiritually crispy.
Yeah, it's because you're spiritually crispy. It's an inside and an outside. And when it comes to burnout, most people think of it as some sort of big, explosive, something traumatic. But for a lot of folks, it's little bits and pieces of yourself that you give away over time. And a lot of what you give away is your authority. Yeah. In that way. And we don't burn out from just doing too much. We burn out from being too little of ourselves for too long.
Yeah.
And when you get to that point in that space, it's you have to sit down and understand, what do I want? Is this real? Yeah. Is this really the direction I want to take?
Right.
Is this where I expected my life to be? And then once you start questioning those expectations, it's one of the things I love about the idea of clarity. When I write about clarity, because Clarity is a character in my book that I'm writing, so I call her my friend Clarity.
I love it.
And that's exactly what she is she's that person for me that she doesn't tell me what I don't know, but she makes it impossible for me to not see what it is that I see, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you know it, you can't unknow it.
And you have to be willing to see it.
You do.
Also.
You do, which is such a big part of it, too, because there's a lot of times when people give feedback and you work through issues, but if you're not in a headspace to accept that,
right,
you're never going to hear it the way you want to, right, or that you should.
Right.
And I think for myself, even if I had been able to go backwards to myself 5 years ago and said, hey, you need to think a little bit more, I don't know that I would have listened.
You weren't ready.
I wasn't ready to hear that. I had to go through those, I guess, school of hard knocks.
Sure.
To teach me.
But that's what brings you to where you are. And I think I think we all find this all over and over in our lives as we go through these experiences that prompt a transition, whether it's a death of a family member, a death of a pet, an illness, whatever it is. And it's horrific when you're in what we call, the messy middle.
Yes.
And when you're in that horrible messy middle and you're stuck, once you get unstuck and you have that new beginning, the heavens open up and, exactly. But you have to be willing to do it, and you have to be willing to look for it.
You have to put in the work, too.
Right. What I find so interesting is you've referred several times to you disconnecting. And I find, we start to disconnect and pull away, and as you said, edit ourselves, instead of being proactive and having other things disconnect from us. Yeah. And I was listening to a podcast actually yesterday talking about having a toxic relationship, in your world. And this woman was saying she just stopped answering the phone when this relationship would call, and she just stopped going to lunch when this relationship would ask, and just kind of gradually forced the exit of the relationship versus changing who she was to accommodate what was expected in this toxic relationship.
Yes.
And I loved that proactive version. So instead of us pulling back and changing, it was, I'm just going to cut the cord. I can do it delicately, and I can be professional, or I can be polite, or I can be kind. But, there's a season for everything. And sometimes cutting those ties is really the healthiest option for us.
It is, and for myself especially, I just knew my path was not where I was. I needed to find, a couple of things. It was clarity was definitely something that was needed, and changing my where I worked, how I worked, what I did, how I earned money, all of those things absolutely changed that for me in a way that I don't believe I would have ever truly experienced if I wasn't in the position that I was, right? Meaning making that choice to take a different career route, which was a scary, scary choice and decision, especially when you're the breadwinner and you make, you know what I mean? You're the one that brings in the funds for the household. So it's a rough spot to be. But for my mental health, it was absolutely imperative and necessary. And it was the first time I think I set the boundary that I didn't clearly have set before. But I set that boundary of I have value and I'm important, and my too much list isn't too much, because when I'm in the right room, my too much list is exactly why I'm there. Right? So what your strengths are and in the room that you're in are very, very specific to you. And I think that's a lot of what I found is I kept looking for the right rooms.
Right.
Because
where
I
that too
was
much,
so much in.
Where that too much is a good thing.
Yes. It wasn't seen as too much. It was seen as exactly the reason I belonged there.
Right, as an asset.
Yeah.
As a value. How did you prepare? I wouldn't be a good financial advisor if I didn't say, did you and your family financially prepare for that transition?
We did.
Because now you're in a position where you're your own boss, and you choose your clients, you choose the relationships that you want, and you choose where those too muches are a great value add. And people are now willing to pay you to show them you're too much.
You got it. They're my value.
Exactly. That I have a lot to bring to the table, and that my voice is worth being heard. And people are now saying, we want to hear your voice.
Yes.
I mean, I have goosebumps. Like, what a great transition that was, so icky. And now you're in a situation where
Yeah.
people are paying you to hear your voice. I mean,
Which
what a
is
beautiful
definitely
thing.
a shift and a change from being the person in the room who constantly edited myself.
Right.
Because I was editing myself to belong there.
Yeah.
I burned in rooms that did not hold space for me. And that was probably the biggest boundary and the biggest realization.
Is saying that's not the place for me.
That is not where I need to be.
This is where I need to be.
You got it.
So when talk about what you do, talk about your company a little bit,
Sure.
and how those strengths are really utilized.
Sure. So strengths wise, one of the feedback I've received in my past was that my optimism was considered too much, right? Or it was a liability.
Interesting.
Which I always found, I very much disagreed during the course of that conversation. I still do.
Sure.
Because optimism is giving hope and opportunity to others. It's seeing in the future.
It keeps us moving forward.
It does. It does. Where it becomes a liability, of course, is if you have no discipline, right?
Yeah.
There's
And you're
other
not
components
recognizing
there.
that things can, I mean, we see this in the market constantly,
course.
right? Market's going to go up and down, and maybe what you thought was going to be there is not there, but we
Right.
still can have optimism about things moving forward.
You got it, because again, optimism sees the potential of what isn't there and the possibility.
Sure.
And from my perspective, I never saw that as being a negative. It's always been a strength. And in my line of work, when I work with leaders, I help them see the same thing.
Okay.
The optimism that you bring to your team is probably one of the best skills that you can offer, because it also invites individuals to be truly their authentic self.
Right.
Right.
And it gives them the opportunity to
Yes.
contribute to the direction that you are heading.
You got it. Yeah. And so with my consulting company, I work heavily with leaders that are in that space of what I call, and I write a newsletter. It's called the Notes from the Edge of Fine.
I love notes from the edge of fine.
So in the edge of fine for workplaces are where things are still technically working.
Yeah.
But you have to
But
do
they're
a lot
just
of
fine.
work to make it work, right? Everything's fine. It's fine. Nothing is on fire today, right?
But we're not getting
but
anywhere
we're not
either.
getting anywhere. Everyone feels as if what they're carrying is far, far heavier than it should or it could be.
And then that's usually when it's harder than it should, and you're
Yes.
not getting the results that you'd like.
You got it. You don't get the output that you're looking for. And what I find a lot of times in those environments is that a lot of leaders, business owners see that as a performance and a people problem.
Oh,
so
wow.
What I do is I solve people problems. And I come in, and what I also say cheekily is I make the workplace suck less. So I help leaders focus on what really is the problem, which more often than not, it's not a people issue. Your dysfunction is in the design, right? It's in the design of how your team works together. It's in the design of your leadership effectiveness strategies and your people strategies.
Sure.
I work with a lot of business owners to help them grow through people, right?
Right.
'Cause
Well, that's what they're there for.
you got it.
and
Well, the
they're
service
doing-
you offer or the widget that people buy from you are made by people.
Right.
So when you want to grow through them,
Yeah.
right?
And you've got to pour into them.
Got it. You got it.
And
Exactly.
you've got to get them to be on board with your optimism and your vision.
Yeah,
And
you got it.
that takes a strong leader.
It does. And sometimes
And it takes leadership coaching.
it does. And a lot of times when I come in, I work with leaders on their leadership effectiveness, but also their team's effectiveness and working together.
So you're working with everybody.
That's a big part of it. So when teams are not working as effectively as they could or should be, and a lot of times that it's the output that's looked at, that's viewed,
Sure.
the performance.
Well, that's the metric that they can.
It's the most often that's the metric that's truly measured, whereas you missed a whole bunch of stuff before that metric.
Yeah.
Right? Which is, how did that work happen?
Right.
So I help leaders focus. How is the work happening? Is the technology and the systems and the processes, do they support the people doing the work, or do the people support the technology, the systems, and the processes? Because it's a very, very different setup.
Yeah.
When you invert and your people are now supporting everything, they carry too much.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
They start to carry the things that they shouldn't. I have a lot of departments that I work with that become the junk drawer. within the company, right?
They do all the leftover stuff.
They'll pick it up, we'll carry it, we got it, no problem, right? But they don't go back to identify, how are we set up? Are we really
And there's no
set up
system
properly? You got
to
it.
carry that and to make that easier.
Exactly.
And so,
Yeah, so I
helping build
have a
that.
process that I go through
Yeah,
with
I
teams
love that.
really dives into it. So a lot of what I do, you could say, is organizational effectiveness. And operational maturity is a big part of what I do, right? So
define the difference between operational immaturity and maturity.
sure.
What does that look like?
Operational maturity is focusing on the people, your technology, how your support infrastructure within your business is working.
Okay.
And you're intentional about it, and more importantly, you budget for it.
Okay.
So development is a big part. Filling skill gaps, that's a big part.
Yeah.
The individuals that are in leadership roles probably most likely got there because they were promoted because they did a job really, really well.
But that doesn't mean they're a
You
great
got it.
leader.
So those skill gaps are what creates your dysfunction in those departments.
Interesting.
It feeds that dysfunction because they don't know what they don't know.
Right.
But once they do, that's where clarity becomes very helpful because
Right.
once you see it, you can't unsee it. So if you continue to do it, you're no longer just a spectator. You're a participant voluntarily.
Yeah.
That's a very different conversation
Right.
from a performance perspective, right? So it's working with businesses a lot to help them understand you see a people problem and a performance problem when really a lot of times it's what's underneath the surface. And your dysfunction a lot of times is in the design.
Well, and
Yeah.
I think with your experience that you went through and you making that change, you're so valuable in looking at a company and saying, I can see this person is disconnected.
Yeah.
And so even though you're not getting the most effective results, not because they're a poor employee, but like you said, what's going on underneath?
Yes.
And recognizing that there's some disconnect and there's a problem there.
Yes.
And it might be, because you've got an ineffective leader in place or because they don't feel valued for one reason or another.
Value is a big one,
Yeah.
right?
Well, everybody wants to feel valued.
Of course. However, when you don't, a lot of times that's where you start adapting.
Yeah.
You adapt because you want to belong.
Yeah.
Right?
And you want to feel valued.
You got it. And I find, and I write about this and talk about it too, but strong souls are conditioned to survive. And that's a lot of what adaptation is. We're surviving.
Sure.
Right? But survival isn't the same as living.
Well, and when you look at how short life is,
Goodness.
that to,
None of
be
us are making it
someplace-
out of this alive.
Right. We're just here for a short time.
We are.
And a
we
good
are.
time, right?
And that's I think another side of it for me is I went through a health scare that was not expected, right? And I'll share a little bit about
was
it.
after you had left?
So yeah, I had gone and seeing that I had a different path was in place for me, and it was very, very shortly after.
Okay.
I was, and I'll share a little bit about it.
Yeah.
I was dispensed medication by a physician, my physician I'd been seeing for years. I picked it up from the pharmacy. Thank you. Any questions? Nope, I'm good. Went about my day. Went home. Took it. And it was 4 times the dosage. I didn't look. I trusted.
Sure.
Right? I trusted my doctor. I trusted my pharmacist. And I didn't look. I didn't ask. But I took the
So what they
medication.
told you to take was 4 times what you
Yeah,
should
they
have taken.
dispensed the wrong amount.
Right.
And I found myself, I woke up in the hospital, and I was in the hospital for 4 days. And
Oh my goodness.
I thought at the time I was dying.
Sure, absolutely.
What I was really doing was passing out because my body just wasn't able to continue to be alert
Work
and
the way
awake
it's supposed to.
because I had overdosed on this medication that just
Sure.
completely started to take over. And what I thought was me dying was just me passing out, but the experience would not leave me, right? And I had already made that choice and that flip of something else. I need to do something else. Somewhere else is a better place for me. But that health scare just really opened my eyes even more. Because if I'm, that could have been my end.
Yeah.
Because they even told me that. if I hadn't made it to the hospital and gone through the process I did, I wouldn't be here.
Right.
And that is a really big,
Sure.
And it's a big change, but it didn't change me drastically or immediately. It was more those increments of things, and they just started coming back to me.
But what you said was it opened your eyes. It allowed you to see,
yes,
you know what, that's confirmation. That was not the right space for me.
Yes.
And I need to find my right space.
I want to be where it is. Yeah. Where the right space is and the right room is.
And I love the fact that you've taken your servant leader approach by giving to others to fill your pot. And in doing that, it also became your job, your career, your profession, your new identity.
Yeah.
Not that you're a different person, but it's allowing your authentic self to come to fruition.
That's really what it came down to. Because prior to, was I inauthentic? No. But I can't say that
I was hidden.
That I was everything that I could or should be.
Right.
Nor do I think I was able to even accomplish what I could or should be, because I held back too much of myself.
Sure.
Because so many other people told me it was too much, right?
Yep.
And that comes back to the right rooms. The right rooms don't tell you that.
And it's a reminder to all of us how powerful our words are and how much what we say to somebody can truly impact how they view themselves.
It can.
And, you keep chipping away at somebody and, they're a shrinking violet. And that's not fair for any of us to do to anybody.
It is. And the crazy part, Karen, is I'm not a shrinking violet type,
right.
Right?
It's the antithesis of who you are.
You got it. But even for me, right, even in those spaces and in those situations, that's what I started to do.
Yeah.
Even though I know I'm a strong-willed person.
Right.
But the wrong room changes you. The right room allows you to be who you are.
Exactly.
And that's really has pretty much led the majority of my decisions. Is I want to find the right rooms.
Yeah.
The right rooms that need me there, that want me there, and that I want to be in.
So if somebody's got the right room for you and they would like your help in their business or, your professionalism to give them some input, how do they best reach you?
So you have my LinkedIn is probably a great place to start.
Okay.
So my LinkedIn profile is there. Of course, I have a website, which is sublimitasconsulting.com. That could sometimes be difficult for folks to spell. I had to be complicated and choose a company name that isn't even English. It's Latin.
Well, Krilogy is Latin as well, so I get it.
You got it.
And people mispronounce it all the time.
I'm sure they do. So I of course my website. I would say LinkedIn is a fantastic place to start.
Okay.
Because not only just the messaging side of it, but you can see a lot of my background, my newsletters on LinkedIn.
And can people sign up to receive their newsletter there on your
Yes,
website?
you can.
The best place.
It's actually LinkedIn. So the newsletter is connected to my LinkedIn profile. It's called Notes from the Edge of Fine.
Great.
So just about, I think from a professional setting perspective, a lot of what I do is on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Simply because it's one of the best ways in terms of navigation of connecting with people. So
right.
I highly encourage folks that aren't part of LinkedIn, just check it out, at least in terms of how you connect with people.
Right. It's fantastic.
It's a fantastic place.
And I think people continue to use it more and more, and those connections are there. I love jumping on and seeing somebody I know commenting on somebody else's. I'm like, wait, how do those people know each other? And it's, worlds collide. And for those of us in St. Louis, it's extremely common, the smallest big city that's out there. So
no kidding. It is small world here for St. Louis.
Right.
I also have 2 sessions coming up with the Clark Family Library.
Okay.
So I've gained an amazing partnership with Paul Sinsland, who is also part of the library.
Okay.
St. Louis County Public Library.
Okay.
And it's a great partnership where he and I have connected through Job Seekers Garden Club, which is the nonprofit I'm on the board for.
Okay.
And Job Seekers connects professionals in the area with roles and positions and helps with career guidance and transition and change, which is a lot of where I got back, my cup started to fill back up.
Yeah.
It's because I saw individuals that were struggling in the same way. And my ability to help them helped me.
Right.
Right.
That
It
makes
healed
sense.
me.
Sure.
Too. So anyway, getting back to the sessions with the public library, the ones I have coming up are the 15th and the 17th
Of June.
And my topic is called Polite Illusions.
Polite illusions. Perfect. Well, they will check out the schedule at the library.
Yes.
And if we can't make June, we'll keep watching it because
sure
I'm
there'll
sure
be
you'll be
more.
scheduled for later. Well, Amy, I can't thank you enough for sharing all your great insight, your very personal experience. I know sometimes it's difficult to share that, so I really appreciate that. And if you are struggling with looking at making a career change, certainly feel free to reach out to Amy or myself. This is Her Next Chapter with Karen Maurer, and we look forward to hearing and seeing you next time.